Got loads of few flowered leek starting to crop up. There's a whole carpet in this area of the woods. Hey guys, Liam here, Primal Nomad, hope you're doing well. It's a beautiful day here in the middle to end of April, and I'm actually out here on the hunt for morels, the Morchella genus of mushrooms, and they're really elusive. Behind me there's loads of what you just saw, the few flowered leeks, so it's a really good sign that the wild foods are starting to come alive. And morels are one of the first kind of edible mushrooms that appear on the menu, and they're very elusive, so they're very sought after. And I'm on a hunt. We might not find any, but I'm in a hardwood area, really well drained soil, kind of loamy. The weather's been perfect, it was quite wet for the last few days, but it's starting to warm up, so let's see what we can find. Anything? So Ellie's with me for the forage for morels. It's a good excuse to get out together. And this is a really ideal place where you could expect to find some sort of fungi life. So we'll see what we can come up against. A lot of sycamore here, beech, some ash and hazel, a few oaks. It's lovely. And it's really nice to be out together actually doing something like this. There's too many opportunities always to come out and enjoy nature, and this is one of my favourite times of year. Always on the hunt for morels. Once I find a spot, it's going to be the dream come true, because I can then revisit every year. But it's a case of just taking slow, steady walks, scanning the environment, and just taking your time. Really, to find them, you've got to be outside. Morels and all other fungi have a mycorrhizal relationship with the trees around them, or woodland ones do anyway. And morels are said to be very related to, or close to, elms, ash, oak, beech. So those are the kind of things that I'm on the lookout for. Over in the States they have a lot more elm than we do over here in the UK. But nevertheless, it's one that if you see in a hedgerow, have a little look for morels near it, because you might well be in luck. The area I was just in, there's a lot of sweet chestnut, so I've moved further into this area here. There's some mountain ash here, some rowan, a bit of hazel, but there's also this broken up wood kind of avenue. Ellie's over there. And all of this is perfect where there's kind of disturbed ground, broken up hardwood, and there might have even been a few little spot fires in here last year in the heat, so we'll have a little look and see what we can find. But morels are so camouflaged in the leaf litter because of their structure and their shape, so I'm really excited to see if I can show you one to explain that. There's been quite a lot of forest work in this bit of woodland, so there is disturbed ground, but morels don't mind that actually, so it's good to keep having a look. There's lots of dead wood around, which again promotes fungi life, so hopefully we can spot something, but if we can't, it is what it is. At the end of the day, you're looking for a wild thing. They're not propagated, they're not cultured, so we're just going to have a wander, and the best way to find them, like I said, is just to keep walking. So one of the mycorrhizal trees is sycamore, and that's behind me here. So I'm going to have a little wander and a really slow walk along here. There's a lot of bluebells around, but obviously loads of little opportunities for things to crop up in between around all the deadfall. So we'll have a little look, see what we can find. Maybe nothing, maybe something. They're very elusive, and because of their shape, like I've said, they just blend so well with the leaf litter. I'm just kind of trying to scan. It's always a battle between knowing whether to scan the wider area or look intricately in between the things right around your feet. So it's a fine balance, because you don't want to, so to speak, not see the woods for the trees. Yeah? Yes. I'm right on the fringe of the woodland and the fields here, under these sycamore trees. I'm just having a really slow walk around, but not seeing too much. But that's okay. I'm having an absolutely lovely time out here, and I hope you are too. Morels, there's 5 species over here in the UK, one being the false morel. And if I can find one, I want to show you an easy identification on how to do that. How to make sure that it is a true morel or a morchella. Even though I didn't find morels in this patch of woodland, we're going to move on to some other patches of woodland and some fields over the next few days, so I'll bring you along to those and we'll see what we can find, because obviously the season isn't just one day and you've just got to spend time outdoors, which is what we're doing. But I am going to collect some of these few flowered leeks. You've seen me do these on the video before. They're Allium paradoxum, that's their Latin name. They've got really nice bugles on the top, which is what they drop and they become the bulb. They've got a triangular cross section and a raised keel on the leaf. So they're your 3 little identifiers, and the 4th being they smell like onions. So we're going to enjoy some of these. I'm going to collect some and we'll do some pesto. So just as an indication, look at the whopping size of that. This patch has been here for years and years, so there's some really mature plants in here. We want the tender young leaves and some of the bugles. So we're going to collect a bag of this, and like I said, that's going to go into the cupboard for some wild pesto. Good little forage. Didn't find any morels there.
No.
On to the next one.
Us.
That's it. So we've just come for a little evening walk and we found loads of other little mushrooms. We just saw that amazing slow worm, which is an incredible thing to see. They're so elusive. I almost stood on him actually. So it's always good to be looking where you're going. So I'm actually back and I'm in my garden now, back in suburbia. And that is where this was found, an absolute whopper of a morel. That is Morchella importuna, and it is huge. Look at the size of that. That was found by Tom. He's been on the channel before, he's my mechanic friend, and that was in a commercial or industrial estate, in a bag of rubbish, full of bottles, crisp packets, rubbish, a tiny little bit of soil, and some charcoal from a barbecue. You can see on the bottom there, the root is still attached to that charcoal. What's amazing is that the spore managed to survive and put out such an incredible morel, and that shows that you don't always have to be in the woods to find them, and more often than not you actually will just find them by accident. They're so hard to find. So that is a great find, and what I'm going to be doing with this is I've left it stand in my garden in some bark soil. Just behind me there's a load of bark chippings, and that's been stood in there releasing its spores. So hopefully that will inoculate that bit of soil and those bark chips, and we might get some morels in the future. But I'm going to actually cut this in half, leave half to decompose here, and I'm going to make a slurry with the rest, which I can spread in various different areas just to try and help spread its spores, so we can all get a little bit of a chance at getting some of these nice Morchella importunas. And again, I'm just going to show you that. What an amazing mushroom. I hope that provides you guys a little bit of inspiration to keep hunting, knowing that you can find something that amazing in a relatively urban environment. So I've got the morel here on a chopping board, and you can see it's still connected to the root here on the lump of charcoal, which is quite amazing that it's surviving and has grown that well off of that small of a bit of nutrient base. There was a little bit of moss and soil around it as well, but nevertheless it's really incredible to see, and I want to try and keep that root section. I'm going to cut this in half to not only show you an identifier of the morel, of a true morel, which is a hollow cross section, but also I want to be able to slurry half of this and spread its spores. The other half I'm going to leave in my garden to decompose naturally, so there's a hot spot of spores in a wood and bark chip area. I'm going to just veer off before the root section, and there you can see an absolutely perfect hollow cross section of what is a huge monster morel. This section is going to be slurried up with water from my water butt, so it's rainwater, and then some flour just to give it a bit of substance, and I'll show you that process, and then that can be diluted and there'll be billions, or if not millions, of spores in there. This section is going to be laid on my bark chippings just to decompose naturally now. In fact, right here is where it was stood up, and that was tucked in there, and it's been releasing its spores for the last 24 hours. So I'm just going to lay this down, put it back into its position, and let that just naturally decompose there. So there's now rainwater in this food processor bottom. I'm just going to put a tiny pinch of salt, which just inhibits any bacterial growth, any of the bad things that we don't want. I'm going to put in the morel. See, he's going in, which already his spores will be now in that liquid. And just to give it a little bit of something to bind to, I'm putting in just about a tablespoon of white flour. Put the blade in, put the lid on, and then blend that together to make a slurry. This is now going to just get poured into a jug. I'm going to make sure I get all of that debris out of the bottom. And I'll give this a little swirl. So now we've got this jug full of the slurry, and just to finish it off, I'm just going to get this stick, and you could start and do the whole process with this. So this spore slurry has now been settled overnight, and I'm going to top this up. So there's only about 600 millilitres of water in here, not even a litre. There's enough spores in here to make gallons and gallons and gallons of this slurry, just because of how many are in here. So I'm actually going to split this between a few different buckets and spread that in some different areas. So I got myself a big bucket. This holds probably about 20 litres of water, And we've got a wheelbarrow here which has been collecting rainwater because we've had a few rainy days. That's going to get tipped into here. I'm then going to introduce the spore slurry, and like I said, I'm then going to dilute this between another bucket, and I'm going to spread that all around the garden. One bucket worth anyway, and the other bucket is going to get bottled up and then spread in some wild areas, because in that spore slurry, which is just over here, is absolutely full of spores, billions and billions of Morchella spores. So hopefully that can encourage some to grow. It's not always a guaranteed that the spores are going to take, because they do require the perfect habitat, and sometimes they can take up to 7 years to provide a fruiting body. But we can only try, and even if I don't benefit from them, in the future someone else will, and that's just an amazing thing. And it would be great to know that some morels have spawned somewhere that I put this slurry mix. So fingers crossed, and of course in the future I'm going to keep you guys posted. So I'll leave you with me mixing up and spreading some of the spore slurry, and hopefully I'll see you in the future to show you some of the ones that have popped up. So there we have it, 2 buckets of completed spore slurry diluted with rainwater, and I'm actually going to spread one of these with the jug that I used all across the bark chippings that run in between these vegetable beds, and then along the back hedge line there where we've got some hardwood trees. The rest is all going to go on my garden, like I said, so I'll leave you with that footage. But until next time, happy morel hunting, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.